That was My Old Holler, a short preview. This song is out on all streaming platforms. And I was sharing that video on another app and started hearing myself. But that song is out on all streaming platforms. You're going to be able to hear it today at 1 p.m. and again at 7 p.m. on Texas Brew Radio. If you tune in, we have Joshua Martin on the line. I had the pleasure of building his website, and y'all, he has heat maps all over this world already. Joshua, what are you up to? What got you started in songwriting, and how long have you been performing? I know this is your first radio release, and you just released your first song ever last Friday. That's pretty exciting.
Yes, it is. And thank you. I really appreciate you and your help and getting this going. So just a quick history, my family, my father played music since I was crawling and had guitars in my hands. And there's pictures of me in my onesie at probably a year old with his guitar in my lap and at jams around the house. I grew up on a farm in southern Indiana and spent a lot of time in North Carolina. And then the whole family kind of moved to Texas and I became a Texas resident, all throughout my service in the Coast Guard. And basically, I started at 9 with my own guitar and amp, which I still have that old amp that my dad gave me for my 9th birthday. And self-taught, I can't read music at all. And I played on the side off and on. In about 1994, I was basically sold my only guitar I had to help take care of my 2 daughters at the time and didn't play for 10 years until my first tour in Iraq in 2004. And a friend of mine gave me a guitar and got me back into playing, and then I started singing for the first time. And when I retired about 2 years ago, I decided to go full time with believing in my brand and my music. And I've written a lot of songs and just started playing them live. And then I decided I was going to go into the studio and record my first record, kind of a bucket list. I'm going to do this, and completely independent, self-funded. I've had zero assistance and put together what I thought were some great musicians from all over, from Louisiana, California, and Texas and Indiana, and cut the first record. And as you know, you've got 6 of the 10 songs that have been mastered so far, and I'm very pleased. Had an amazing engineer, Nico Albanese, and then Joe Causey from Nashville did the mastering, who had just finished. Oh Lord, I can't think of his name right off the top of my head. I should know this, but anyways, really high quality people that have gotten involved with this record. And so I'm excited. And then this May, I went into the studio in Indiana and recorded 10 more of my songs with a little better budget and even some either more incredible musicians by number. Instead of a 4 and 5 piece, I had 7-piece people. And so it's exciting, but I mean, it's all new to me and I haven't really changed who I am. I still hunt and fish and like to play, old school country music and travel around. And I've been doing literally everything myself, designing my merch, doing my booking, doing all my social media. And it's been quite the run. But I mean, for 2 years now, since I retired from the Coast Guard after 23 years, I haven't done anything but play music and travel. So it's been pretty cool.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, thank you for your service. And I think traveling is absolutely like one thing that I think everyone needs to do. I say this on almost every single interview. Like, you have to be able to get out and experience the world to even be able to understand the world that you even live in. And you could go 5 hours away from home and get a different environment, but like being able to see different areas of the country, it's enlightening to you as an individual and helps open your brain to other things out there in this world. Oh my goodness.
And it's funny, I want to thank, again, my Coast Guard service. While it was my job, and it put my middle daughter through Texas A&M and helped my oldest daughter with college at Phoenix, and my son with military school and other stuff. It did show me the world on the Coast Guard's dime and traveling music. I've now been to 48 of our 50 states and around 40 foreign countries. And again, I've always traveled with a guitar or harmonica. And that's another thing, harmonica. I started playing. I had a good friend that sent me a couple harmonicas when I was in my first tour in Iraq between 05 and 06, and just started teaching myself to play as well. But little things like that, was a big deal. It gave me something to do on my off time. In in a pretty crazy world over there.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
it blows my mind too, as I reflected lately that, I retired from the Coast Guard 2 years ago. I was one of the very few to be selected to go to Iraq in '05 and '06, which my first deployment training was 2004 at Blackwater in North Carolina, and some specialized training in Virginia. That's been 20 years. That's just hard for me to fathom right now. And kind of with this music journey, the fact that I've recorded 2 full records of every song. Well, I've wrote every single song, no co-writes, music and lyrics, and I've got a lot more. And I continue to write, and I literally, quite frankly, have enough for 2 or 3 more records. And want to see how this first one goes. And it's a mixture of, I like to say, country and blues and Americana and Southern rock. Like I don't like to be labeled as a genre. And I mean, I really love it all. I mean, I go from George Strait to Waylon Jennings to David Allan Coe to Led Zeppelin to Hendrix to Prince. I mean, I just like all kinds of music, and I think my music. You'll hear some heavy guitar, which is influences from people like Stevie Ray. Then you'll hear voicing like Chris Ledoux or Waylon, and I'm going to try to be my own brand and my own self. But clearly, these are big influences, and you're going to hear it. People, when they hear my song that's not been released yet, you know, oh Lord, well, My Old Holler, I don't know. That's definitely got a mixture. I've heard everything from a little bit of Chris Ledoux, a little bit of Tom Petty. I'll take all that. I mean, I love them both.
Absolutely. Being versatile as an artist is a good thing. And I all the time tell artists that I get on here, because there's some that like they just all their songs, they're definitely country. Absolutely. But then you have other artists where, you'll have like 2 songs that are country, and then you have 2 songs that, I mean, they sound country, but they're not the same. And it's really cool to have, that classic rock thrown in there with that country twang or that blues kind of a feel. Being
Well,
able to get it, and then it helps you also to reach out to other categories of fans. Like, um,
well, you go back to Travis Tritt, who I met when he first came out and was a super good guy, and his guitar player had showed me a few licks. I mean, Put Some Drive in Your Country. Well, that song really did elevate putting some Southern rock, into country, kind of like Leonard Skinner, Allman Brothers, Marshall Tucker, whoever. But I mean, Chris Ledoux was really the one that started that and was one of my first heroes, and always will be one of my heroes. And he definitely put some rock in, into his music. And I do got another big influence of mine is Charlie Robinson, who we lost recently. It was a big influence of mine. I loved his songwriting, and he also very mixed it up and wasn't afraid to take chances lyrically and musically. And out of Bandera, a place I hold very dear to my heart. I'm just glad I got to meet him and see him before he passed. And a lot of influences. I mean, really all over the road, blues wise. I mean, from seeing Freddie King and Albert King and BB King, and not Freddie King, missed him, but and Stevie Ray right before he was killed were big influences on mine when I was a kid, and literally getting rides of people before I could drive to see people like Stevie Ray when I was 16 years old, and I think my ticket was like $15 for a front row seat.
how about we tell the story behind your song "My Old Holler" that we just heard?
Oh wow, okay, so My Old Holler. My dad was kind of a roughneck. He did build houses and lumberjack and did oil field. And he actually was in the pipeline in Alaska for a lot when I was a kid, and did commercial fishing. He really did it all for us to survive. I was an only child. And he built a cabin from logs from our property off our old farm, and literally had everybody helping out, including me, like 3 years old, peeling logs with an old draw knife. And I mean, probably mostly in the way to keep myself entertained. But again, we grew up where we did everything. We raised all of our own animals, and we trained all of our own animals, from hunting dogs to horses to you name it. And but when I reflect back, way before cell phones existed, walking the woods with my dad, learning directions, learning plants and trees and rocks, you know. And my favorite memories were walking the creek banks, and we'd pick up geodes and break them up and look at the colored crystals. We'd skip rocks. We'd set trout lines for catfish or go canoeing and fishing for crappie and whatnot. And obviously whitetail hunting was a big thing in my family, and living off of venison. And, you know, like my first experience with my dad, I was about 6 years old in his lap when he took a nice 10-point, which is now on my wall in my house, and with a picture of the cabin that my aunt drew, which is the cover of the song Mild Holler, you know. And just having that kind of sound. I got my acoustic guitar in my old Martin, but that whole like kind of that memory lane of walking the creek banks with my father in Mild Holler. We lived way back in the holler, and we were the only people there for a while. It was a gravel road. It's still a gravel road to this day. I just recently went and visited and got a picture of my cowboy boots kicking up the dust there. And, you know, and there's another song I wrote that's also talks about growing up with the farmer there, and just a lot of memories. And I wouldn't trade that for the world. I mean, we were started with nothing and grew a pretty good farm. And same thing I've done in my life. You know, I left home with virtually, he gave me an old 76 Chevy truck that used more oil than gas, and $300, fishing pole, rifle, and toolkit, and said, good luck. You know, at 17, I moved out, and then I built a life for myself from there.
Oh, I can relate to that. I was out on my own with a kid at 16, and let me tell you, if that isn't a people building experience.
Yep. You got to grow up fast.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to give a shout out to Tolliver Ray Music. He asked, what do I need to do for my songs to be played on your station? And it's really actually pretty simple. You just send an email to texasbrewradio@gmail.com, and we will get back with you.
Right on.
Yeah, we support independent songwriters, so don't hesitate to reach out if your music is radio ready. Joshua Martin has another song. He's teetering between which one he wants to release next. He has a song called If I Fall, which we'll listen to a little bit later, but we're going to give a little preview of this song he was just talking about. It's Old Watering Hole.
Old watering hole. That's right. Like the old bar, the horse drinks out of the trough, and sometimes, you know, us men and women go drink from the old watering hole, and sometimes you get a free show that's better than Walmart.
About a six-pack in, and that gummy's kicking in, and I'm heading down the old watering hole. They're standing in line, and she's drinking them like fine wine, and hustling their cool. They're throwing lines and wasting their sweet time, pouring their hearts out on the floor, while she's taking them back to the old school for everything they're worth.
That was Old Watering Hole, Joshua Martin. That definitely has a different style and vibe to it than Mild Holler that we just heard. What's the story behind Mild Watering Hole? Well, I think the Walmart comment right before we listened to it was pretty funny.
So Old Watering Hole, you know, basically every once in a while, I don't drink heavily, but I like to have one here and there. And I'd stopped in this bar And every one of my songs is a true story. Sometimes it's personal experience, sometimes it's just me watching the world go around. But I'd kind of watched this young lady, attractive lady, hustling a bunch of people at pool and buying shots, and they're throwing money around. And I'm sitting there kind of laughing to myself. They probably got wives or girlfriends or whatever, but she was taking them for what they're worth. And I just put some words to it. And the very last night I was in the studio in November, we had 3 hours left, and I had that guitar riff I'd come up with, and I jotted down some words, just kind of laughing about what I kind of watched go down. And basically the bass player and the drummer and the keyboard player, I said, check this out. We rolled with it. We knocked it out in 3 hours. And then a very, very talented banjo player, Jesse Beals, joined in on it. And, it just seems to fit. And it's kind of a fun song. And at the very end, I rock out a guitar solo on my Les Paul Custom. It's the same guitar I used on If I Fall. There's a couple blazing guitar solos, whereas for Mild Holler, I'm using my old 58 Telecaster, and again, kind of has that almost Mike Campbell feel from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, which is another big influence, but just different. And that's again this first record. I mean, I've got some songs that have that Texas blues feel, little New Orleans blues feel with a slide guitar on my cigar box that Hanley Guitars built for me, and then I've got Busted, which has kind of a Fabulous Thunderbirds or Jimmy Vaughan, Stevie's brother feel to it. And then we go to ones you haven't heard yet, like My Irish Goodbyes. Too Many Irish Goodbyes is more of a ballad that people have kind of said has a Ryan Bingham feel, which I'll take all day long. And I'm playing mandolin on that song. And then there's, you have not heard it yet, that Lonesome Highway, which has an absolute country two-step feel, and people two-step to it, which I like. And that one is still being mastered. Should have it back any day now. There's just a big mix. I mean, and again, I almost wanted to put on here "Don't Label Me," because the genres are all over the road, and I'm not afraid to show that I have all kinds of sides to me, from Texas blues to New Orleans blues to slide to outlaw country to old school country. I mean, clearly people like Waylon Jennings and David Allan Coe and George Jones and George Strait and Johnny Paycheck, and I mean, I could go on forever, but Johnny Cash obviously is a big influence of mine. And there's so many great ones. And then you move forward into the modern days like Cody Jinks and Whiskey Myers and the Steel Woods to Blackberry Smoke. I mean, I love what they're doing in that Southern rock feel with a country flavor.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's been fun, chatting with you on your journey and getting to know all of these different things about your different songs. And I think one of the big things that I picked up on what you were talking about with your music was that the guitar definitely makes a difference in your show.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I started out as a lead guitar player. I mean, honest to God, when I was 13, they were sneaking me in the back of like Elks and Legions and whatever just to play lead with the old timers. When they take a break to drink and smoke, I had to go wait outside. And I didn't start singing for myself until I was 34 years old. And literally, I just had always played lead and had written songs that other people sing them. And then one day I just decided to believe in my brand and try to find my voice. And that was the biggest struggle, was to realize that, okay, my voice is lower, it's raspier. I can't hit super high notes. I'm not the most talented, singer, but you look back at people like Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jimi Hendrix, and neither were they. But obviously lead guitar is something is one of my main things. And I go from chicken picking to blues to bends and again, before I even ever saw my first steel guitar, I was trying to emulate those on electric guitar, which I do a lot of bends like that. And you see that picture you got posted, that's my 55 Telecaster, where I've worn that neck out. I've had it for quite some time, and was my main touring guitar. And those damn things have gotten so valuable now. I don't take it out as much as I used to, but I definitely record with nothing but vintage guitars and amps. I feel like good enough for, the greats like Waylon, good enough for me. And matter of fact, some of the effects, those are also vintage. Like I'm using a 1979 phaser on the song called "Find My Way," which you've heard, but we haven't released yet. That has that Waylon feel. And I'm sure people are going to say, "Oh, that sounds like Waylon." Well, good, because that's what I was trying to pay tribute to my hero. It's my song. I wrote it, but I wanted that sound and feel because he was such a big influence of mine.
Right, absolutely. It's good to play tribute to the people that we love in our life for sure, and helping keep that style going. I mean, so many. I think that you're going to find that people are going to support you in your journey even more so because you are real and you are raw and you aren't trying to fit into some sort of mold that was laid out for us to like crawl into. Um, Especially with the stuff that's going on with AI and Spotify and all of that. I think that, the guys that are out here saying, "Hey, I'm not trying to be somebody. I'm trying to be me," are the ones that are going to win in the end for absolute sure.
Well,
This
go ahead. I'm sorry.
this next song that we have, I definitely want to talk about a little bit before we play it and get off of here. I know that you said that you served 20 something years in the
Coast Guard.
Coast Guard. You were also law enforcement, also, right?
Correct. Yeah, I worked for. At the age of 20, I started apprenticing for the Monroe County Sheriff's Department and got on full time after a part time and an apprenticeship. And then from there, I went to work for Bloomington Police Department in Indiana for a little while in dispatch. And then from there, I worked on to another department and got on the road and went to the Indiana State Police Academy. And from there, picked up K9. And then after 9/11, I was pretty upset with our country being attacked and being the kind of the patriotic country boy that I was. I raised my hand and volunteered to go to Iraq. And that's how I ended up doing 2 tours. And while I was in the Coast Guard because of my prior police experience in K9 and also working with some of the SWAT teams back in the day. I was an instant candidate to go and had orders in less than 24 hours after I submitted my application to go. And that's a tough one. Like I don't even know what to say anymore about that. It's I'm proud to serve my country, but then again, it's there's a lot of baggage that goes with those deployments and being overseas and whatnot. And I am a disabled vet. Most people look at me and think I'm fine, but I mean, not only do a lot of us experience different versions of PTSD of what we've seen or what we had to do or go through or the job we did, but I have major breathing issues, and I've never smoked in my life. I injured my knee over there. I broke my foot in 3 places on another related injury. I had 2 shoulder surgeries from duty. Took a hit over there had a situation with a boat that rammed us and nearly crushed me. I basically used up all my cat lives and had some situations too in the police department. Where being in a gunfight and having rounds flying past you is no fun at all. And I do write about it a little bit. Another song that's going to be on record too is called "Fight This War," where it really does get into that. It took me a while where I could sing that song publicly. But back to "If I Fall," that was more of I came back from tour number 2 in June of '06, and I got a payback tour in an amazing place in Lake Tahoe where I was second in command as the XO. But I really needed help, and my marriage was a mess at that point, and I was going through problems, and I hit the bottle pretty hard, and I still drink, but not like I did back then, where I was killing off a bottle of Maker's Mark a night and driving my Harley when I shouldn't been, or my Mustang way too fast, and people were just kind of like, "Oh, that's just him. He's just blowing off steam, or he just got back from the war." And I really needed help, and there was really no one there that wanted to say anything to me. So this song is kind of about, if I'm falling, help me pick me up. Don't let me drown, and it goes from kind of my relationship to, I really hope veterans know out there that if you see somebody, whether they're a veteran or not, whether it's police, fire, nurse, or just having a rough time, like say something, because no one wanted to say anything to me. So now I put it in a song.
Yeah, it's absolutely PTSD, and you don't even this might be mind blowing to people. You don't even have to be a soldier to get PTSD.
That's correct. It could
I
be a
was
bad
talking.
marriage, a car wreck. It could be losing, I mean, a child. It could be anything. I mean, people, there's a lot of different PTSD out there. And I think that, and again, I'm very careful with this subject because music does heal me, and music has pretty much saved my life. That when I decided to go out and tour and record music, it's what keeps me at peace. Because everybody's been through rough times. I don't think there's anybody on this planet that hasn't, and they're lying if they say they haven't been. But I mean, that's definitely what keeps me going. Besides my children and now grandchildren, music is what keeps me going for the most part.
Yeah, absolutely. We had talked a little bit before. I was just wanting to put it out there because PTSD is not as it's something that a lot of people have gotten disability for, but it's not something that you can see. And it's
Correct.
not something that I mean like I myself, I was always edgy. I was always very short with people. I have set in my ways, and I joked about the fact that I probably have PTSD for every reason that there is. But the thing is that it literally can, and I'm saying this because people really do need to care about our soldiers and about the people that are hurting, because sitting sitting with those thoughts long enough can literally physically affect you. I know Josh, I was telling you about how like one day I was just going to get in the shower and all of a sudden my lips started tingling and turning blue. Like that's PTSD, and it literally can do so much to you. And to think that, it doesn't, you don't have control over it. That's the one thing. People think that that people with PTSD have control over it. Oh, you can have control over whether you lash back. And a lot of times you really can't. It's because you're just so like it's even hard to explain, but to have something to where like there isn't even anything on your mind, you're just popping in the shower and all of a sudden your lips are turning blue. I just need to reiterate y'all that it is serious. It's not something that they're just brushing off or using as an excuse. It's something that it is something that's being researched even as we speak today because of the complexity of it and the variations of it, and what it can do. So if you have a soldier in your life and they seem like they're edgy or they just don't see, that, don't put it off as that's who they are. I was talking to one of the gentlemen down. We had a showdown at the 50 plus zone, and I brought up my journey. I talked about my testimony, and I had a gentleman come up to me afterwards, and he was like, Cynthia, I'm almost 60 years old and I just found out I have PTSD, and I didn't even know I had this my whole life. He's like, I just thought that's how I was. Like I just thought that he's like, I'd be walking down a sidewalk and there'd be three people walking down the sidewalk and it didn't matter. I was staying in the spot that I was walking, and they either moved around or they got the shoulder brush. I didn't care. He was like, now being aware of what that was and being able to look back and heal on that. Some of us don't even realize what's going on. We just are so stuck in a hustle and bustle, and
Yeah.
we just, put it off as, oh, that's just how he is. But I can guarantee you, if that guy's living like that and he's edgy and he's short tempered and just little things bother him, he does not want to live like that. And just reach out and be a friend, like Joshua said, because literally that's all they need. It's scientifically shown that your health, your mental health, and your general health can improve just by being around friends and chatting for 8 minutes. You can see a
Yes.
difference in your mental health. 8
Well,
minutes.
and in isolation, that's, of course, anybody that's been through any kind of AA or had drinking problems, like drinking by yourself is never a good thing. Um, and then of course, the more you isolate yourself, the more you feel isolated, like you don't have any friends and no one cares, and that's where the slippery slope happens. And we both have discussed, it can be anybody, a first responder, it can be a marriage, it can be a soldier, it can be a police officer, it can be a nurse or a doctor. I mean, really anybody. And so I think it's good. And so I'm trying to shed some light on that. I'm also sharing my personal story, and some of my songs get very personal, and again, like I wouldn't trade my journey in life for anything. There's been a lot of good and bad. And, while being divorced was a tough pill to swallow and finally going through that process, I wouldn't trade my 3 kids and our journey for the world. But, I also became a statistic. The military and police service was not good on my marriage. And also, like my PTSD, I had anger issues and drinking problems and just literally out of control for a little while. And while I might have been a fun guy to be around, I'm lucky to be alive.
Well, I think that, and because I dealt with the drinking part of it too, I blamed mine on my occupation because that's literally what my job was. But I think that, with the anxiety that comes with PTSD and being around people and being in environments and not having control of the environment, the alcohol helps to relax you so that it's easier to cope with. So I think that,
When you
that
use it as a
is,
crutch, correct. I mean,
yes.
but when you use too much of it, it's the best thing I've learned in my life is moderation. And I've really, that's from coffee to having a beer to having an old fashioned. Like if you catch me out, you'll rarely see me have more than 2 old fashions because they're pretty strong. And I'll have a driver or I'm at home and I'll opt to not drink with certain friends. I've had a couple different friends that are sober, and when I go out with them, I drink tea, and that's just a self control that, and I think more people should learn to do. And know your audience basically. That you've got people that struggle with that, and if they touch one, they're going to pick it back up, and they're going to be on it in a destructive way. So I don't know. Knowing your audience is important. And while I always give my hand salute and hats off people that are sober, I still choose to indulge and enjoy myself, but I'm just a lot smarter about it.
Right. Absolutely. I know that when I was, weaning off of my drinking phase, I definitely it was hard at first cuz like I'm the type that like if I have a drink, I'm good. If I have 2 drinks, I'm good. If I have more than 2 drinks, we are partying until the place shuts down and then we're going to find somewhere to go afterwards.
You till the cows come home. Yeah, I can't do
Oh,
that
yeah.
anymore. No, but and I don't want to spend too much time on this because our time will go quick, and it already has. An hour's flown by. But all my music, though, again, every song I've written is a true story, and people keep asking me to sell my songs. And one of the reasons why I won't put any up for sale or give them to anybody is they're my personal experiences and stories. They're my failures, they're my triumphs, they're my laughter, my cries, whatever. And I'm just not willing to put them up for sale. And if they don't do anything, that's fine too, because I'm still leaving a legacy. The fact that people can upload one of my songs now on my website at joshuamartinofficial.com, or they want to go to Spotify or Apple Music or iTunes. It's an amazing thing to me that my music is now on there, and that I wrote these songs and that people are downloading it and sending me nice comments. I've had some wonderful comments. I haven't been posting them because some of them you can see their name. It's kind of personal. Maybe I'll edit them all out. But I mean, I had a young lady say, "Hey, I downloaded your song. I'm listening to it over and over again. I just love it. I can't wait to hear more." Those things make it worth all the while. And I got to give you, props too. You've been so supportive and helped me in the areas where I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to websites. And you did an amazing job helping me build this website and get this train rolling. So I thank you for that, Cynthia.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did want to reiterate that he didn't mean that he wasn't selling his song. He's not selling himself. He's not looking for a label. He is independent, going to stay independent, enjoy his life, enjoy his music, and hope that you guys do too. You can, though, actually go to joshuamartinofficial.com and pay to download his song. Save it on your phone, save it on your computer, listen to it whenever you want. And we suggest that you go to his site and do that so that he gets the benefit and can put that money back into recording some more new music. Go stream it on Spotify if that's your streaming platform, but download it off of his website and make sure you guys are doing that for all your artists. Support your artists when it comes to song downloads. Don't go download it on Spotify. Ask them if they have a website. If they don't, tell them Cynthia will build them one. They need to be building their own brand. We are going to Joshua Martin Official. You're also on Instagram, TikTok. YouTube,
Facebook, Snapchat.
Facebook.
I'm on everything. And my Facebook page was just Joshua Martin. You'll see mine, my cowboy hat, and my black background, black and white. I do love black and white. It's just simple, and I've been kind of known to always have posters in black and white, and T-shirts and koozies and hats. I like it simpler, and quite frankly, black looks good on everybody. I like to keep it very simple. But and I did see some interesting posts the other day. I mean, like literally, I think 5,000 spends on Apple or iTunes or Spotify might equal the profit of one T-shirt sold at the merch table, or versus if you download from the site, I might get $1 for my song versus Spotify, I get 0.0001 cent, I think, for each download. It's just kind of crazy. But I also recognize exposure, that it's a necessary evil, that I'm not looking to get rich off of Spotify and iTunes and Apple and Pandora. I'm looking to expose people to my music, and I hope they like it, and then go from there.
Well, here's an even bigger thing to process. I saw it takes 1 million spins to make $4,500 on Spotify. 1 million spins. And did you know that only 10% of artists on Spotify even get 1,000 spins on their song?
That's pretty incredible. I'm not surprised, and I did see a statistic like that. And and again, I opened up for Chris Cagle last year, which was awesome at the 5D Steakhouse in Yorktown. And I really appreciate Brianne for getting me that show. But I didn't make money necessarily. I mean, I did get paid for the show, but where I really made my money was the merch, and people were very generous at buying koozies, hats, stickers, and shirts. And a lot of musicians these days, that's really where you're making your money, and that's kind of where Cody Jinks has been pushing change the game. People like him and Ward Davis and Dallas Moore that are out there, like, they're hitting the road hard, and they're where they really got their making their money was off their merch, and that's just with everybody. I mean, we've seen Maggie Rose recently, who's just amazing. Her album's doing great, and the first thing I always do is any of these artists is I go to their merch table and I buy a shirt, and I'm usually wearing a shirt from somebody else, hoping that somebody will do the same thing for me.
Absolutely. We most artists, like, if you put it into perspective, these songwriters, if they're doing acoustic, they're typically getting paid about $100 an hour. If they're driving 3 hours to make $300, you got to allocate for the fact that they're probably going to have a hotel room. So basically, they're coming out to play for you for free. So absolutely, if they have merch, buy the merch. If they don't have merch, hit the tip jar. These guys work so hard, and music is our universal language. Without music, this place would be worse than what they've envisioned the zombie apocalypse to be. And we really need to support the people that are bringing it to the table instead of supporting the big corporations. So support the small guys. Those are the ones that are bringing the real stories, the ones that are going to heal, the ones that are going to have you feeling some type of way. We are are there any cool stories or information you want to pass on before we go ahead and listen to your next song, If I Fall?
Well, I mean, we've covered a lot already, and I'm hopefully there'll be some more interviews in the future, and I'll be making a lot more trips to Texas back and forth. I've got property in Texas, and all my kids and grandkids are there, and my mom. As a matter of fact, I mean, I've got my middle daughter's a nurse in Houston. Oldest daughter is up in College Station in business management. My son is in Seadrift, and my mom and my aunt are in Corpus Christi. So, I make big circles around there, and then I've got property as well, 2 properties rather in Texas, and spend a lot of my time there. And as we spoke before, back and forth to Louisiana, where I have my old little, what I was once my fish and hunting camp here is now kind of my home studio and place where I write a lot of my music and spend time to get away. But we've covered a lot, and I just appreciate you for giving me the opportunity to be on air and promote these songs and assisting me with the with the websites. And I think the EPK is important too, electronic press kit. I've never done one of those before, and even having the link, it's so important for booking shows. And as I'm booking bigger shows at bigger stages, and I'm really geared towards that, like I want to go somewhere where people are there to listen to the music and they have a real stage. Otherwise, I'm not going to kill myself. And everybody has their own path, but I think being background music and playing 4 nights a week at little restaurants and bars, and while it's great to support music, most people there having conversations and eating. And quite frankly, that's just not my scene. And I'm trying to get to the point where places I'm playing, I don't even put out a tip jar because I want them to come see music and listen and and hopefully they buy merch. And like the tip jar is great for busking artists or young artists or that are living off of playing music. But I was a professional for 30 years. And while I'm not rich, I'm also okay. I'm playing music when I want, how I want, and my light bill and my phone bill or whatever doesn't get paid by music. This is something I love, and that I'm thankful that my 23 years in the Coast Guard and my 8 years in law enforcement has at least given me a comfortable living and where I can concentrate on playing music and writing music and not worry about I got to play so many gigs to pay my next electricity bill. So I'm blessed there.
Right. That's definitely the ideal way to get into the game. Absolutely.
But as you
Um,
know, I waited a long time, and that's the other thing too is that I had a friend of mine who was a Nashville songwriter for 7 years. He goes, "Bro, I'm so proud of you going after this. After you've spent your life serving your country." And he's heard a few songs, and he was like, "I'm blown away. This is really good stuff." And I'm like, "Well, I waited a long time to do this, and I even releasing these songs. I mean, the ones that you had got a hold of. I mean, we took the time to find the right studios and the right players and the right producer and the right, mastering. Joe Causey actually did the mastering out of Nashville on these songs, and it just dawned on me. He had just finished Keith Urban's record, which I just thought was super cool. That when he's like he gets done with Keith, he's working on mine. I'm like, wow, that's the kind of caliber of people that I've been blessed with getting connected with, and again, the musicians on this record from Jeff Shue on bass, Nico Albany's on drums, Brian Petrie on drums as well out of Louisiana, Raphael Hittenbotten on bass out of different bands, Wes Scrimshire on keys and B3, Amanda Webb on vocals, Sarah Menifee on vocals, Jesse Beals on banjo and mandolin, Kent Todd on fiddle, who's an amazing player on some of the other songs that will be coming up later, and oh Lord have mercy, the pedal steel player. Peter Doyle is just phenomenal. He's an incredible. In his songs, the songs you have so far don't have those players on there, but they're coming, and the music, again, it just seems to be getting better. And I listen to the songs, and it is hard for me to fathom sometimes, like how that went from my living room or a hotel room or Airbnb on my acoustic guitar to recording in a professional studio with amazing musicians and amazing engineers and producers. And I have to pinch myself sometimes, like, okay, wow, we've done this, and now we're going to move on, and we're going to put them out there. And so, thanks to people like you, that's happening.
Well, I am glad to be part of the journey, and I'm definitely here for it. We'll be absolutely hearing more from this amazing artist, Joshua Martin. You can check him out at joshuamartinofficial.com. Grab some of those t-shirts. Those t-shirts that he has on there, once they're gone, they are being retired. So grab you some Joshua Martin Official swagger by going to joshuamartinofficial.com, and we're going to check out If I Fall. You guys, we're probably going to put a poll on there. We probably know which song we're going to release, but we might put a poll on there to have you guys let us know which one you think you want to hear first next.
And I just want to highlight on If I Fall, Amanda Webb is the accompanying vocalist in the duet in the end, and just an amazing person and singer that I had first seen playing at an open mic blues club or a jam. I can't quite remember, and then she agreed to come in and do a couple songs. This take on this song is actually a first take. We took two, but her first was so good that we kept it. And down the road, the other amazing female vocalist, Sarah Menifee, also was on several songs, and I was just so happy to have them. But this particular song is me on lead guitar and Amanda Webb on accompanying vocals. And again, B3 players, Wes Scrimshire, Jeff Shue on bass, and Nico Albany's on drums, all amazing players. So thank you for listening, and thank you for putting this on, Cynthia.
Absolutely. This is If I Fall by Joshua Martin.
If I fall back down again, don't you know I never win? Well, I'm in this place of sin. I keep coming back for more and then. Please don't settle this old score. I can't take too much more. If I fall back down again, would you pick me up and be my friend? If I fall back down again, would you pick me up and be my friend? Oh,